Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. You can also make sure that you don't lose us. So I know there's a lot of things happening in the streets, and especially the MTR main feed. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Make sure you subscribe to the UD Pod feed because I have some announcements at the end of the show, but also we do drop different episodes. The numbered episodes make the MTR feed. The rest of our episodes are quick snaps, are specials about whatever's on my mind that week. That's going to come out and be on our just on our feed. So make sure you subscribe there. iTunes, anywhere else you can get your podcast. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. We'll read it on the air. It's good to be back. We recorded a Super Tuesday this morning that should be coming out today as well. But it's really good to be back. It's good to be back talking about sports. Happy 2018, everyone. Thank y'all for just a great year last year, and I'm excited for some of the things we got planned coming up in 2018. Today I come to you a victorious man. Quiet you.
You always are a victorious man, or at least you claim to be.
Well, you know what? And this time I can substantiate those claims because not only did Georgia football go in and win against Oklahoma, they put on perhaps, you can have the argument, the best Rose Bowl of all time.
Oh, hands down.
The Vince Young USC one's very good, but this feels like this. I'll be telling people where I was. It was my couch when I saw this game. It's nowhere interesting, but I'll never forget it. And for the first time in my life, the University of Georgia has a crack at a national title. And I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about such a wonderful topic than one of my lifelong friends. I've known you since we were 11 years old. The first roommate post-college, which is actually home to most of the worst stories.
Or great stories
and
that
we lived.
Well,
We're
I don't
here.
think we remember some of the great stories.
We can piece them together, though. We can
They were there.
probably build a timeline, a rough timeline. We got my
Yes.
homie Wright here, man. Wright, how are you doing today?
I am doing phenomenal, sir. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for coming on. So, before we get into everything else, I've known Wright, like I said, since I was 11 years old. And ever since I met Wright, there's been one thing that's always been in his blood, and it's coaching. And I'm not saying that to disparage any of your athletic achievements, but like you always, not just from the example of your parents, but you always have like the brain for understanding the sport and communicating sports to people. Was it more? Did it just something that we know now? Excuse me. Now you're the what are you doing? Where are you coaching now?
So we live in Huntsville, Alabama now,
All right.
and working at Randolph School. And this past summer, I actually was promoted to associate athletic director and varsity football coach, assistant with varsity boys basketball, head middle school basketball. Yeah,
So a moderately full plate.
Yeah, a little bit.
So is it one of those things where like coaching always just felt like a calling, or is it just something that you saw your parents do and you wanted to get into?
A little bit of both. When it's all that you know and it's all that you're raised in, a lot of people would say, well, you don't know any different, which is a true statement. But for me, there was just always a lot of fun in analysis, and the excitement was the preparation and not just playing. And when you got two great examples to learn from, like, you kind of dive in. And I think for me as well, I had two parents that at times actually said they didn't want me to just go into coaching or be heavily involved in athletics from an administrative standpoint because they did it. They actually encouraged me at times to really look at other options and to do this and do that. And I just didn't want to. It wasn't appealing.
Right.
It wasn't appealing. It wasn't fun. And what I'm doing now, coaching, and, now that I've made that next step into the administrative role, it's just fun and enjoyable, and working with young people, and it's awesome. It's time consuming, and
Yeah.
it's a at times, as many say, at times it can be a thankless pursuit, but it's a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable. And at the end of the day, I still can put food on the table and a roof over my family's head. So
there it is. It's always wild. I love talking to you about this stuff because the stories that make the news are all the sordid stories about coaches or people influencing young people in the wrong ways. And it's always, I love talking to you because it reminds me not to get super cynical because those people are the exception.
Yes.
Like generally, like people like you who want to be educators, who want to work with young people, who want to help enrich their lives through athletics, there's nowhere else it can come from other than altruistic place. Yes.
Absolutely. I think the ones that do the job really, really well, especially at the high school, middle school level, you don't hear about the good ones,
right.
And you rarely hear about the great ones. And if you really don't, then typically those are the ones that are actually doing everything for the right reasons, which is the kids.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think that watching your parents do it at the level that they did it for so long and watching the lives they touched, that had to have definitely influenced you too.
Oh, absolutely. You see the reward, and you and I have talked about it before because I had friends in college say, "Oh, well, if you do that, you're not going to make money. You're not going to be rich or anything like that." And my response always to everyone has been, you have money, you have this, and as cliche as it might sound, I'm very rich and blessed in many other ways that some of them are not.
That's
And I'm okay with that. And if my son's got coaches and mentors and, people like that have reached him in ways that I was reached out to, then great. I'll take that any day of the week.
That's great, man.
Although money is nice.
I was going to say, it's like, Lauren may hear this. You know that, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I'm aware.
Well, the reason I want to have you on, not just because you're a great, upstanding example of the right way of coaching, but because, Georgia's in the title game. This is the man who took me to my very first UGA game. Like I've told on the podcast before, I grew up Clark Atlanta football, like AU Center, but my first taste of big-time college football was when the Wards took me to Georgia, to Sanford Stadium to watch Georgia play. And, you had a pretty good convert on your hands.
I'll tell you what, man. You get into Sanford Stadium and you're like, oh, this is what it's like.
It's just it's wild, and I know you and I have been through the ups and the downs, the pits, the falls, the Quincy Carters, the Joe Coxes, the Joe Tarazinskis. Did you ever really think we'd be here?
Hey, if you're a lifelong Georgia fan, and you and I have talked about this before as well, you never get too high and you never get too low, because at some point you're always going to feel like we're there, but we're probably going to screw something up. It's like having that friend that has the best intentions but is going to screw up somehow. So to now be here with you recording on a Sunday, the day before the national championship, and Georgia's in it, I still have that feeling.
Georgia's in it. It's in Atlanta.
It's essentially a home game.
The storylines are – it's a home game for both teams. How far do you think these people in Tuscaloosa are willing to travel?
Oh, my God. We know far.
It's going to be a madhouse in Atlanta tomorrow. And, let's just – before we get to it, let's talk about how we got here. That Oklahoma game, man, best Rose Bowl I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I'll tell you what, that first half was harrowing. It was not a fun thing to be watching.
No, but thank God for squib kicks.
Okay, so you coach high school football. Why?
Okay, well, first of all, typically in high school, it's not a bad idea because you're not necessarily dealing with a plethora of kicking talent.
Fair enough.
That you are at the college level.
Fair enough. But they have a kicker who has proven his ability to, as I say, kick the ball.
Yes. Goggles has a leg. And, he obviously earned a scholarship, which puts it on a different level, in my opinion. It wasn't just given.
Well, it's never just given. It's always earned.
Well, it's always earned, but I'm just saying, like, he had to walk on. He had to go through everything his freshman year. There were still, issues about would he get one, would he not? And, to be given that scholarship the way it was given, and then also prove really the very next day why he was granted the scholarship with a winning, essentially the winning kick versus Notre Dame on the road. He's proven himself. He's proven himself. I just don't. I'll never understand the logic personally, regardless of being a high school coach or college coach. If you've got someone that can boot it out the back of the end zone, why play games?
Especially the end of a half, like it felt like they were trying to get too cute, like the Baker Mayfield catching the touchdown, and it was a lot. The first half was, even though, like you said, there's that Georgia fan fatalism, I was never really scared. I was more like, wow, it's going to be a very interesting how this ends up, and how it ended up was the Georgia defense allowed 7 more points, 1 more touchdown.
I know, it was unreal. It really was the halftime adjustments and what they did. Although I think for me, and one thing that I've kind of noticed this year that is different, and if you've been around Georgia football long enough, then you're going to understand what I'm about to say. There's just this sense in the second half that they haven't had before of we're not going to lose. Like it's just this feeling of, in the past, it has been that, okay, when's the other shoe going to fall? Like at what point do we lose something that changes the game? And that feeling really hasn't been around this year. And before, it's always been there. And this year, it doesn't feel that way. Like there doesn't seem to be that, it's over, we're screwed. That just doesn't seem to exist. There seems to be this kind of calmness about everything. Like, we're still in it. We're good. If we're down 2 touchdowns, it's okay. It's been different, and it's been great to see, because I was reading an article earlier this week about, and it was Georgia players, and they were saying the same thing. Like, it was always like, we've got talent, we can compete, we can play at this elite level, but even they had that feeling of, when is something going to go wrong?
Right.
It's not been a question of talent. It's been a question of mentality. And they don't have that mentality, it doesn't seem anymore. It's we have this talent, we have this elite level, and we're going to show you.
I hope you're right, man. I thought the second half, the most interesting change they did was they kept doing the 4-man rush, but they added twists. And For some reason, an Oklahoma right tackle, who apparently is a scholarship athlete, can't pick up a twist. And, not even they just got out physical. It was really just horrible footwork, and that's the O-line nerd me coming out. But you watch him try to close it down, and you're like, hey, man, just what are you doing? And the series where they sacked Baker twice and had the tackle for the loss on draw, I was like, it's over. And I tell you what, I've said this all season, I've said it on this podcast all year, Roquan Smith is the best linebacker in the nation. And when that third down occurred in the second overtime, we're conditioned as football fans to see that guy make that lean and say, okay, he's going to barely get over. Roquan hit him, stood him up, and pushed him back. And I was like, oh, no. It was jarring because, like I said, we're football trained to say that guy gets a first down because he leans or he spins. And Roquan Smith was like, that's a different story than the one you're reading.
Yes.
And I, for one, thank him. And whoever ends up – and the other thing, the way it ends with Sony running the touchdown in, and I've said this all season, and I think something – you can't make enough of it. Sony and Nick Chubb coming back for their senior years to split carries is a precedent setter for the program.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm always going to be team get your money, particularly running backs.
Yes.
I honestly, heart of hearts, I don't think either one of them should have come back. I'm glad they did. It worked out great. But heart of hearts, they probably could have gone. But guess what? Their stocks are higher than ever. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
I'll say this. it's going to be real hard for a Georgia player to say, I'm leaving early.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be real hard.
You could say the same for, Bellamy and Carter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you absolutely could. It's going to be interesting to see what a guy like Raquan Smith, who very easily could say, I'm going to go, and you couldn't fault him for doing it. But is that decision harder for him now than maybe it would have been had those four gone?
I honestly hope Raquan Smith leaves. I think he's a top 10 pick, and if you're a top 10 pick,
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't fault him if he goes. You're like, hey, you know what? Applaud it. Like, well done. Yeah. You've given literally everything you could give, figuratively everything you could give to this, to Georgia and Georgia football. But you have to feel like it's not going to be I'm out of here decision.
Oh yeah, I don't think it'd be flippant, but I think that he's played himself in the top 10.
Absolutely.
After the Oklahoma win, because there was a play I think on the overtime where Baker Mayfield threw a post on the field, and it wasn't just like, oh, Roquan Smith was close to it. He was in the receiver's pocket.
Oh, the running back into the flat?
Yeah, no. The one up the seam.
Oh, yes.
And I was just like, wait a second. It's not like he's close or no. He's step for step, stride for stride, mirroring the receiver. And this is a special talent and a special kid, and I'm glad we've got him for at least one more game. I'll tell you that much.
Yep, I am so happy that UCLA screwed that one up.
And the thing is, people don't remember, this is the player who said he was taking his recruitment into his own hands.
Yes.
And everyone called him cocky and overrated, and guess what?
Worked out pretty well for the Dawgs.
Pretty well for him.
Good old Montezuma, Georgia, baby.
Sometimes staying close to home matters.
Yeah, find that on a map.
Well, let's talk about the second game of the night, because Georgia fan or not, that Rose Bowl was exciting. It was up-tempo, a lot of scoring, a lot of points, a lot of big plays. Georgia establishing the Hail Mary inside zone against Oklahoma, because apparently that's how it works for us. And then you got the Bama game. And I'm going to be honest with you, right? I may have drifted off after the second field goal. Because for the last 10 years, I've seen this Bama game. It's the boa constrictor, I call it. It's the, oh, look, you have a pet boa constrictor. That's the first quarter. The second quarter is, oh, I can wear it. Oh, it's cool. It's a fun animal. The third quarter is, hey, it's getting a little tighter on my neck. And the fourth quarter is unconsciousness and the boa constrictor eats you. And I say this because if you watch that Clemson game again, it's actually a fairly close game until the interception for a touchdown and the subsequent throw into the flat for a touchdown. Then a 4-point game became an 18-point game in about 4 minutes, and you're like, wait, what just happened? It's like they got mugged.
Yes. I actually went to sleep after the touchdown by the defensive tackle.
Yeah, you knew it was because you knew how the story ends. I've seen this movie before, Nicholas Saban. You're not getting any more of my time.
Yeah, I'm not that my one TV turning off changed any ratings whatsoever, but I felt very justified in turning it off.
Because it's a rerun.
Yes.
At a certain point, it's a rerun. And I'll tell you what, it was really interesting to watch the next morning, see some of the highlight, and some of the people notice Dabo kind of loses on his guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that we hadn't seen in a couple of years because they've been winning a lot, but it's something historically that he says he's showing some fragility on the sideline about his players, because he's one of those coaches, like for me, like a Brady Hoke, where if things go wrong, there's no way it's my fault.
Yeah.
And it's always, those are the coaches that you always feel uneasy about, because if you point to everyone but yourself, like, how is that leadership?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting to see the Clemson thing. I think if you give Nick Saban a month to prepare for anyone, that's what's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like just a little bit unfair.
Yeah, like it's.
Nick didn't enjoy the holidays. Nick didn't buy Christmas presents. Nick never left the office. Nick went to sleep with Clemson tape and woke up with Clemson tape for 3 weeks.
Yes.
The time off, downtime. What downtime? Nick Saban? No. You gave him a month. That's on you. That's on you.
In all fairness, everyone's talking about like, oh, well now, these teams have less time to prepare than they've ever had in the past. And as a Georgia fan, you're like, hell yeah.
Thank God.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is going to be like, do I think that tomorrow night the score is probably going to be like 21-18 or something like that? Yes, I do. But
first one of 23 wins.
Exactly. Like, if that. I might. There's a part of me that's like, shoot, call it 17.
Yeah.
Like, but I'd rather have Nick Saban with less time to prepare than more time.
That's just because you've got common sense.
Yeah, exactly. And let's be honest, everyone's talking about, well, is Georgia going to have enough in the tank? Georgia's going to have enough in the tank because they haven't been here. So they're energized, they're excited, they're
Hell,
they're
we got freshmen we didn't even bring on the field against Oklahoma. You haven't seen all the running backs yet.
No. Yeah, Swift was in for what? 2 plays, tops, and I don't think he touched the ball.
You haven't seen all these running backs. It's a little unnerving.
It's if I'm Alabama, it's like, hey, great, I stopped Chubb, I stopped Michelle. Crap, who's that?
Yeah, where'd this kid come from? Oh, he's a red shirt. We're burning it for this game. Sure you are.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, as Georgia's and Oklahoma had this exciting shootout, Nick Saban once again put on the college football snooze hour. And now, tomorrow night, as I've announced on Twitter, I fell bass-backwards into a ticket, so I will be in the building. I don't say this is stunned at all. I'm just excited. Like, I'm sharing.
As you said.
I think I have the right. This is exciting times. I honestly, I was always the Georgia fan who was called myself a super realist. Like, we're a very good program. It's not a great program. We don't make the financial commitments to become a great program. But at the same time, when the SEC's down, we'll be up and we'll look great. When we didn't win it the Hawaii year, I was like, that may have been the closest we get. When we lost to Alabama on that 5-yard line, and then they went on to snuff film Notre Dame.
Oh my God!
I was like, well, that was us. That was that was a title game. I think everyone recognized that was a national title game. And Chris Conley's too smart of a football player to not catch the football.
Well, and he was a freshman that year.
Yeah, he was.
Like,
he was.
His freshman made
a battle, man, balls up. You're taught to catch it.
And he's a receiver.
Like, the job's in the name, man.
Yeah, like, receive the ball. Catch it. Like, he's a freshman in college in essentially the national championship, and you're expecting him to say, I don't want it. Like, just bat it down. Like, pull a Des Bryant. Like, don't throw it to me. Like,
Yeah. I've never faulted him for that. I've always told everyone that was one of the best college football games that no one will ever talk about again.
Absolutely.
Because he got erased because of what Bama did Notre Dame. But
exactly.
That's one of those games that I remember exactly where I was. I remember it hurt a lot. Let's just leave it at that. It hurt a lot. And since Saban got to Bama, there have been 4 times these teams have met.
Yes.
First was a blowout.
And the only time Alabama has lost was his first year.
And it was awesome. It was great.
Phenomenal overtime win. Good job. Was it Mikey Henderson in the end zone? Yep. It was awesome.
Great throw and catch. The second game was the 2008 game.
Don't talk about it.
I have to because
you don't. You actually don't have to.
I had people. It's the only time I've ever had people at my house during a football game, and I've told them to leave. I kicked everyone out of my house at halftime. This is, if anyone who doesn't remember, this is the infamous Georgia blackout game where they wore the black jerseys, and Alabama proceeded to bury him.
You know what? Could have been worse. You could have been there.
Oh,
because I was there, and it sucked.
Did you stay?
I'm a dedicated fan.
Oh, you hate yourself. Is that what you say?
I'm a dedicated fan.
All right. The next game these two teams played is the game we just talked about. Instant classic, Georgia Dome, 5-yard line. Chris Conley just trying to make a play and making the wrong one. And the last one was probably one of the final nails in Mark Richt's coffin.
Probably.
It was a rainy game, and the fact that it was rainy killed us because our entire team that year was predicated on threatening you to stretch the field to set up the run. And when the rain came, the deep ball went away. Alabama vice locked on our entire team, and it was a hard one to watch. But yes. Monday, Georgia is going to walk into that stadium. I've never been in the stadium.
Well, I mean, it's only been around for a year.
But I mean, I got friends who have tickets.
Season, actually.
Yeah, I got friends who have tickets and stuff. So here's a little wrinkle for you. The last time I was in the Georgia Dome, it was to watch Westminster, our high school, win a state title.
So you're going to bring that with you?
I'm bringing a little good karma with me. I don't believe in any of that nonsense, but hopefully, it works. I don't know, man. I don't believe in it for it to work. I don't believe in the internet, but hey, here we are talking right now.
It's about.
I gotta ask, how do you feel going into it as we sit 2 days out? I think if you ask me this question tomorrow at 6 p.m., I won't be able to answer because I'll be vomiting. But right now, how do you feel as a Georgia fan?
I feel anxious just to see it kick off, but I also feel confident.
Okay.
And I feel confident because of the defense across the board. I just feel like all three levels, Georgia is just solid, and I feel that they're more solid than Alabama, mainly because at the linebacker spot, because they haven't lost anyone, and Alabama has.
Right.
And if you can get Chubb, Michelle, Swift to that second level against, yes, they're 4 and 5 star guys, but against not what would be their normal starters, Chubb, Michelle, Swift can have a field day. Mm-hmm. If they can get there.
And that's the big if, because that front four for Bama is no joke.
That's very true. That's very true. I think the best thing that could have happened to Georgia is for them to have gotten blown out by because they were dominated across the board by Auburn, because I think it woke them up to just how physical they do have to play every single down. Mm-hmm. And I think it woke them up. I think it woke the O-line up. It woke the receivers in terms of getting separation to then open up running. I think it did all of those things because Auburn's front four is equally no joke.
Yes, they do as little.
Yeah, so like to go back to the SEC title game, see it again, and basically flip the statistical numbers completely around, which is what Georgia did if you look at it. I think that Auburn loss opened up a lot of eyes for Georgia, which I think has benefited them since then, plus inserting Big Ben Cleveland at right guard. Because you put 6'7", 340 at guard that has a physical mindset, they really have kind of changed a little bit in how they play, which is good.
100%. I think that at the end, not to say at the end of the day, I'm not going to do that. I think that Georgia has, I think defenses, there's two elite defenses, so that's going to be elite play. I think Georgia's got more firepower.
I think they do too.
I think, and I'm, as the last Jacob Eason truther, I'm excited to see him playing in Miami next year.
You know, I was thinking about that the other day, and you know, there's been a lot of articles that I've come across about, you know, Jacob Eason, and first of all, you got to give Jacob Eason credit for being a phenomenal teammate through this whole thing. And you can say like, oh, that's a moral victory. Okay, you know what? If that's the way you want to call it, then you don't really understand, in my opinion, the concept of team sports and being a great teammate and how important that is. So you got to give credit there. But a lot of articles about, you know, what if he doesn't go down? Is Georgia here? All that sort of stuff. You can play what if games all you want.
Right.
You got to give credit where credit's due. You can't you can't dictate or predict injury. He got hurt. Give Fromm credit. He came in.
Dude, and that's the thing that's really blown me away is not just his Fromm come in and handle the ship, which I think is what they asked him to do early. You look at You look at the Oklahoma game, they threw more than they ran.
He's running the ship. He's making calls, checks. Like, there's not a, look at the sideline and then that's all. I mean, it does happen, but there's not a ton of look to the sideline and then make an adjustment. They're getting set. He's looking at the defense, and you and I have talked about this before, and I've said it to you. It's like looking at a former number 11 for Georgia behind center or under center, because he's looking at the defense. He's walking up. He's making checks on his own. And you just don't see that in a Georgia-type offense that's so pro-style from a true freshman. And the other thing to me that's so impressive about Fromm, and it's not a shot at Eason in any way, because I think Eason's going to be a great player. I think he's going to have a great NFL career. I never heard teammates talk about Eason like they have about Fromm, even dating back to when Fromm first got there. Like, you never heard that about Eason in terms of just his approach, his just
I never put much stock into what you hear or don't hear out of people. Everyone's got, it was, I don't know. It's interesting how that always comes out afterwards. I will say this: it's going to be a big stage for the kid, and I hope he can pull it through.
Yes.
And it's going to be a hell of a game because say what you about Bama, and I will say a lot of bad things about Bama. They have done this before, and
yes,
Kirby Smart and people. Someone said that Saban assistants are 0-12 against Saban? Someone said to me last night, someone's got to be one.
Someone's got to be one, and I actually do, and I think I sent this to you yesterday morning. Like, first of all, listening to Joey Galloway and Booger McFarland go back and forth is, first of all, it's hilarious. But I thought Booger McFarland made a great point that if you look at the other 11 games of Saban versus former assistants, only one team has been comparable talent-wise to Alabama, and that was Jimbo Fisher with Florida State. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have said this Georgia is comparable to Alabama talent-wise. So what, does it change anything? Maybe, maybe not. Does it mean that Kirby's better than any other assistant? Don't know. Is he better as a head coach? Don't know. Like, there's so many questions that really don't matter. Big picture. Like, they really don't. Who cares? Like, and I agree. Somebody's got to be one. And if there's not one, it's because Saban retires. Like, that's it. Like, at some point, he's going to lose to somebody that comes from his coaching tree.
Why not us? Why not now?
Exactly.
UCF has been very loud in public about their claim to a national title, and while we all think it's adorable and cute, they've now announced they're going to be paying the coaches who are all leaving their national title bonuses. So now, in the name of, I guess, PR or making claims, that they're going to not only pay these people to leave, they're going to throw the fact that they're paying these people to leave in these unpaid players' faces. Now, for the record, them claiming the national title, it's not absurd. Alabama's national titles, there's a good number of them that are, some would say, contested. Now, that's why if you ask the NCAA and if you ask a Bama fan national titles, you might start a fist fight.
Yes.
But I think that the national title bonus is what made it. It crossed it from a funny, cute story into a slap in the face story to me.
And again,
you're
paying them to leave. You're basically saying, here's money, go to Nebraska. Like, I just don't. It doesn't make sense. No, across the board, it doesn't make sense. There's so many other ways that money that you're now paying people to walk out the door could be used. And instead, you're basically just saying here, between the head coach and all the assistants, that's going to be what? Probably close to $1 million.
Oh, it's a clear $1 million, yeah. And that's what kills me, because these are the same people who tell you we just don't know how to pay the players.
Yeah.
Money came from somewhere.
How can we help benefit the players in some way?
Let's pay the guys who are leaving.
Yeah, let's pay this entire coaching staff that's walking out the door and leaving the players behind.
Well, let's be real, because this UCF thing, while you and I can laugh about it, it does bring up something that's going to become a very real issue in the future: playoff expansion. Yes. I think it's coming. I don't think it's a good idea, but I think we can agree it's coming. And I got to ask. I always ask this: do the kids get more education for the more games? If we pay the kids education, do they get an extra class or something for these extra games they're playing?
You know, I'll be honest. I don't even feel qualified in any way, shape, or form to answer or respond to that question, because one, I feel like the answer is just going to be no. But like that's just reality. There's just so much that, because I don't know, there is a sense that like the playoff system has devalued the umpteen thousand bowls that seem to be existing now.
Let's talk about this. You and I are big college football fans. How many bowl games did you watch?
Out of let's see, there's what, 40 bowls? 40, 41, somewhere.
How many did you watch? Go to say all, or what would you term most of?
Oh, good God. Like, maybe 5.
I was at 3, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I dip in and out, but the ones that engage me, and I think you're right, because, and we were talking about this before we recorded, when you take a sport that's regional and take it and make the focus national, like an SEC title should matter. A Big Ten title should matter, and not just in the purview and lens of how does it result in a national title. It should matter that you won the SEC.
Yeah. But it's almost like you can, with the playoff, you can win your which used to be a big deal.
Yeah, it used to matter.
It used to matter. And now I think on some level it still does. It's more like if you win your conference title, you're in a better position to have a shot at a national title.
Right.
So it's not about we won our conference, that really matters. It's we won our conference and now we're in a better position for something bigger.
Exactly.
So there's that little bit of letdown almost, like, well, we didn't win our conference title, so we're done. Like, you know, or we won our conference title, but it's not going to really matter.
And it's something wild to me, because everyone said, oh, the playoff will open up more lanes for these smaller schools. I hate to be the guy who bangs the BCS drum, but that lane was already in place. I actually looked this up. In 2005, a member of the MEWAC, the Midwestern Conference went to the Fiesta Bowl. 2007, Midwestern Conference, Boise State, Fiesta Bowl. 2008, Midwestern Conference, Hawaii, Sugar Bowl. 2009, Utah, Midwestern Conference, the Sugar Bowl. TCU, 2010, Midwestern Conference, Fiesta. Like, these are teams that, 2013, Northern Illinois went to the Orange Bowl. That's awesome. Because not just for the schools, like, and people say, well, what's it really matter? Hey, guess what? When I'm Northern Illinois and I can play a big ticket game in Miami on a New Year's Day, I've got more eyeballs on my program than I've ever had before. That increases your recruiting base. That increases alumni donations. That is a proven fact that when you're on a big bowl game and people's eyes are on you, alumni donations go up and recruiting bases grow because more people are aware of your brand.
Yes. Well, I mean, look at what it's probably done to Central Florida. I mean, and you also can't tell me that some of what Central Florida is doing is not about publicity to an extent, because it is. Now,
1,000%.
that doesn't justify the plus 1 million that you're paying people to walk out the door. But on some logic, there is that piece to, yeah, we're going to pay them because we're claiming a national championship. But if you're the school, and this is, again, you get back into this whole where do the players fall? And unfortunately, I think everyone has an opinion of knowing exactly where players fall.
Right.
But is the school looking at it from the standpoint of we're going to pay them $1 million plus, which we can live with because the publicity we're going to get and the exposure we're getting could generate much more than that down the road.
Right.
I mean, that's why even the president of Alabama has said the best investment they've made is Nick Saban because, yeah, we're paying him $7-8 million a year, but in his time at Alabama as a school has probably made $400 to $500 million plus because of what he's done.
Well, let's talk about the sport where the players do get paid. This year's NFL Pick'em contest is over. As I announced at the beginning of the season, all the fans all the listeners were invited to play along. ESPN Fantasy. We picked the games every week against the spread, and the winner was going to get a guest spot on UD Pod, and the winner is your boy. Now,
so who's the guest?
I don't know what to do. I think I'm going to do a solo show or something. It's crazy. I did this to prove to myself that I really shouldn't get back into gambling. All you people have done is lose me money next year. That's all you've done.
Well, here's a challenge. You should be your own guest and actually change your voice some and just talk to yourself.
See, that's an idea you would give me just to laugh at me. I see you. You're not tricky, right?
I just want to see if you'll do it.
Let's see. Speaking of things that were a little bit tricky last night, hey, the Kansas City Chiefs somehow lost that football game.
Oh my gosh. Was it 18-point lead?
Andy Reid went full Andy Reid, and I honestly can't believe it happened.
Okay, look, as much as I hate to say it, clearly, I think you and I can both agree, as Atlanta fans, you gotta know that it can happen.
That's too soon.
I'm just
too soon. How about that?
I kept perspective, is what I did.
That hurt me, is what you did.
My son's home.
I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, they went full Andy Reid and found a way to lose the Titans. And I get to bet against Marcus Mariota next week, possibly, which I'm pretty excited about. The second Walker game, the Atlanta Falcons started off the weekend beautifully for us fans here and vanquished the Los Angeles Rams, St. Louis, no one really loves this team anymore. You could buy. So one of my friends flew out he was in Vegas for New Year's. He drove to L.A. for the Rose Bowl. And then when the Falcons got in, he said, I almost stayed out there because they were giving away good seats at the LA Rams game for $70 for the playoff game.
Jeez.
Because no one wants to go. He's like, I almost just stayed. He's like, I almost just worked out of our LA office and stayed out here until the playoff game.
It's amazing to me because I remember seeing something about all that has happened to the it wasn't, at least the Rams can kind of claim that now that they've had success. I think it's the Chargers, who are already losing money, have now lost more money because no one will go to the games.
Oh yeah, they're hemorrhaging money, and it's actually right. It's worse for the Chargers because even less than the Rams because the Chargers were close enough that they had an identity in San Diego, so no one in LA wants to root for them, but no one in San Diego wants to drive to LA. So
exactly.
Just no one wants to go at all. The second game, look, man, this Falcons team, and I'll tell you what, it was weird to cheer against Todd Gurley. For the record, Todd Gurley finished with 14 carries and 101 yards yesterday.
Yes.
Because Todd Gurley's a maniac.
He's a beast.
But the Falcons, look, man, this is, and people say playoff experience, that was playoff experience.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Across the board, offensively, defensively, special teams. They just owned it, and it never felt like the Rams were going to win. It
felt like from the jump they were out of their depth.
This is going to be a game. This is going to be challenging. You just kind of felt like Atlanta's going to win because Jared Goff has no idea what he's doing in this situation, and rookie coach, second year QB, just as a team, never been in that scenario since 2000 and It was single digits. That there's just no. I don't think they have anyone. I'd be surprised if there was anyone on their roster that had playoff experience within the last, 3 or 4 years. There might have been. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Like, it just never felt like in question. Like, Atlanta's going to win round 1 at least.
Right. And now they're going to Philadelphia to face Nick Foles and the Eagles, not Carson Wentz. So, and I know you and I are both very kind of riding cloud 9 because, like you said, it's January 7th, and both Georgia and the Falcons are still playing football. But is it too crazy to think that they could get one away from Foles? Particularly with how this defense is kind of rounded into form.
Well, and not just the defense, but the secondary.
Oh, particularly.
The last 2 weeks has been outstanding as a unit. And I mean, what's amazing about that is, I mean, they're doing so much man coverage. Mm-hmm. And to do it at the level they're doing it, and to have done it for consistently for 2 weeks, it's going to be interesting. And I would be much more fearful of next weekend's game with Wentz behind center than Foles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
What was it? He missed 3 weeks and he was still leading the NFL in touchdown passes.
Yeah, he was having an amazing lights out year, and I think this is one of those things where maybe, just maybe, we catch a break as the Falcons. I know you don't say that as a Falcons fans, particularly, but maybe we caught a break. The NFL coaching carousel is here. People are getting fired. People are getting hired. Somehow, Marvin Lewis is still employed in Cincinnati.
No, he's not just still there. He got an extension.
I don't get it.
Because, well, not just a 1-year extension, 2.
No one can explain that to me, and I am never for one people lose their jobs. Never.
No.
However,
well, but think about it though.
Think about it. His performances before. There were open rumors about him retiring already. Like, someone's either trying to force you out or you're floating this to get the extension. If he floated that to get the extension, Marvin Lewis is a genius.
I was about to say kudos to him. As
we're talking about it, I just gained a brand new respect for Marvin Lewis.
Get money.
I can't even get mad at him. Like, what? Wait, did you say no? Like, they offer you money, you gonna tell them no?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't. As much it kind of reminded me with all that, like the years where, like, Rick with Georgia would go like. He'd have like a 7 or 8 win year, which was very rare, obviously. He averaged 10 over his 15 years with Georgia. But he'd have the occasional like 7 or 8, and all of a sudden there'd be something like Georgia gives Rick a raise, and you're like, what? Like, I don't. Kudos to Lewis.
Yeah,
why not?
Man. Get your money, Marvin. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's something like people don't. I mean, the world doesn't operate on you get what you deserve. I guess. I mean, it's true. It's empirically true. It's weird to see it play out so nakedly.
The only thing that would have made it better is if, and I don't follow. I mean, I'm sure he is on Twitter because the world is. But if the day it was announced he got an extension, he went on Twitter and put #GetMoney, and like that was it. Like, and then disappeared again. I think it would have been just classic.
All right, so let's go to the list of NFL coaches really quickly who got fired or otherwise separated from their team. Ted Thompson was the GM of the Packers. He somehow got a promotion, but restricted GM duties, so promotion all in quotes. Jack Del Rio was fired in a very embarrassing fashion. He was fired in front of reporters and had to say goodbye to his players while they were still doing open media availability in the locker room after the game. Bruce Arians retired. Jim Caldwell was fired. Somehow Hugh Jackson's still not fired. 1 win in 2 years. I can do that. I can do it.
Hey, he knows what he's doing.
Hugh Jackson is a good coach. He's a good quarterback coach. We've seen it proven. I can give you 1 in 2 years. Me, myself. I'll work for half. I'll just lowball Hugh. At DPalm66 Browns, holla at your boy. I got this. I can get you 1 and 2. 1 in 2 years?
Get money.
Man. John Fox, he got fired in Chicago. Chuck Pagano got fired in Indianapolis. And the most interesting firing to me was Ben McAdoo and the Giants, not just because it had to happen, but because of the story that broke this week involving the Patriots, involving the rumors out of one Patriot place, of a rift between Belichick, Brady, and Bob Kraft, good Columbia man Bob Kraft. And I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, please be true.
Yeah, I didn't even really follow. I saw it. We talked about it before. The fact that Georgia's still playing, like all my attention has been on any article relating to Georgia and Alabama in the national championship. But I heard about the whole Kraft, Belichick, Brady thing, and I guess a part of me was like, that's crap. That's not real, because all you've heard prior to that through all this is how united they are and all this stuff. So I didn't follow that one at all. I think McAdoo lost his job as soon as he slicked his hair back and went like full New York.
He went Pat Riley. You never go Pat Riley in New York, man.
No, you just don't.
If you're not Pat, you can't do it.
No, and he did, and he got fired. So I think that's a lesson for all of us.
An important one to be learned.
Yes.
Also, Oakland Raiders are going to bring back John Gruden for 10 years,
$100
million for a guy whose track record is essentially Brian Billick.
Get money.
And that's what it is. It's a get money. It's a look good thing to do. It's a pretty stance to take because you're going to take a team to Vegas. There are rumors of giving Chucky an ownership stake. And if you're going to go to Vegas, you want the fun, exciting Raiders coach. But you got to remember, this is a guy who had 1 year of success with Brad Johnson in Tampa Bay and then played a team who did not change the checks in his offense from the year before. So during the game, Gannon's calling audibles, and Derek Brooks is telling him what he audibled to.
I just feel like with Gruden, you're going to see a lot of, spider 2Y banana.
I hate you.
I mean, it's a victory. It's a winning play.
I'll say this. This is a guy who hasn't called a play.
Really, it's a lot of different stuff.
He hasn't called a play since pre-HD.
It's true, and I'm willing to bet I will bet you right now his first play is Spider 2Y Banana.
And I'll tell you what, man, this is the same way I felt about Herm Edwards getting that job in Arizona State, who hadn't coached in college since 1989. PR moves aren't always the best moves.
No, they're
not.
What
happens, because this was a disappointing Oakland season, but I think they've got talent over there, and you're kind of saying a lot by putting in John Gruden at the helm of it.
Well, here's the other thing you got to keep in mind about, in my opinion, I agree with you. I think they do have talent. It was a disappointing year. They also had, some pretty big, they had some injuries.
Oh, there's no denying that. There were injuries up across the board.
So it's
your quarterback breaking his back.
Yeah.
And then coming back way too soon, in my opinion, because if I break my back, you're not getting a podcast for a couple months. No offense, folks. Let alone playing quarterback.
It's just gonna be interesting to see what do they do as a fully healthy team, but at the same time, is Gruden gonna potentially walk into a situation where everyone stays healthy and they do have the success that their roster says they're capable of? Is it because of the talent they have, or is it because of the coaching? And I think Gruden could walk into a situation where if people stay healthy, they have success, and a lot of credit goes to him. And it's like, dude, your people's healthy. It's kind of like, it's like looking at Georgia. I mean, they've had no devastating injuries that have played in the past.
What are you doing?
I'm allowed to say it. I can say it. I'm just saying you can't – they haven't had the injuries. And you can say that about any college team that makes it this far, this long, and has success.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. All right. Any last words, man?
Get money. And, let's just say a prayer for the Dawgs. Dear God, let them win. And
I'll tell you what.
Let's go for 1-11 for Saban.
Leaving Mercedes-Benz.
Or 11-1. We'll say 11-1. Smart can be 1-0.
leaving Mercedes-Benz tomorrow night is either going to be a lot of elation or a lot of sadness. And yeah.
Well, you know what? You ask a lot of questions on this. Let me throw this one out there to wrap up, because I'm interested in your thoughts based on what you just said. If Georgia were to lose, if they were to lose, and you're leaving that stadium, are you truly disappointed in the fact that they lost when you do know what they did this year, and then what is going on within the program as a whole?
I will be disappointed if we lose, yes. I'll be disappointed if we lose, yes.
Okay.
I'll be highly disappointed if we lose. I will be.
I'm not saying I was expecting you to be like, I'll be elated regardless.
No.
That's not
I
what I was
know what you're asking. I think perspective will come later.
Yes.
I think, because the things you're saying are true, things are turning upwards. We're probably a year ahead where we should be. At the same time, yeah, I will not leave the stadium with peace of mind if we lose.
I can get behind that. And then I will also say that I want you to keep in mind that when you wake up on Tuesday, if things were to not go the Dawgs' way, you still are in Atlanta, in the state of Georgia. I have to go to work in the state of Alabama.
Oh, I keep forgetting you're there.
As a dog fan.
These people
will be a dog fan in the state of Alabama at place of business.
So yeah, you'd hear about it once or twice, wouldn't you, buddy?
Yeah, and let's just be honest, things haven't changed in a lot of years. Kids can be vicious.
Well, there you have it. One of my best friends in the world, Wright, coming on talking about his life as an educator of the youth and as a Georgia Bulldogs fan, and how you maintain the positivity to educate the youth and at the same time watch these Bulldogs hurt us usually, but they won't hurt us tomorrow.
Yeah,
the Georgia
not
Bulldogs
this year. Not this year.
Win a national title. I don't want to hear if they
Go
don't.
Dogs.
Like, I don't want to hear if they don't. Like, I really, it's a great way to get cussed out on Twitter.
Yep,
tomorrow night. It's a great way to do that. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.